Good evening. Hello.
How's everybody doing? Ben, how are you doing?
Good. Good. You might notice I'm in a darker room and a different sort of camera setup. I'm using my phone for a couple of reasons. One, I don't have internet at the moment. And two, I genuinely think from now on I might use my phone. It's a solid connection. There'll be no more have we lost Ben. Touch wood. The network doesn't go down.
That would be the perfect time just there for it to just crash, as is tradition.
Yeah. If the network goes down, the network has taken us off the air. That's right. we're a network show now. How are things? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, but that can't be true.
No, it is actually true. We haven't. Yeah. It's things are good. I'm going on my honeymoon tomorrow. So I'm also finishing work tomorrow, so that's great. So I'm in a fucking great mood.
Whereas I'll continue my work tomorrow. It's been a busy week. I've been working with the internet. My life is crumbling around me. It's all good. It's all fine. But it's oh boy, oh Jesus, it's that kind of vibe tonight. But that's all right.
Okay, we'll swap. Okay, so I'll be the optimistic, lovely one, and you can be the.
Thank you. Okay. I do feel like this new lighting setup in this phone has given me a sort of Gone on Sun Holidays crisis vibe. It's a nice glow. I'm not disliking it.
No, it's not Gone on Holidays sun vibe. It's hit the beat with 100 CVs tucked under my arm and no sunscreen on.
But, it's gotta come up for old Ben one day or another. Looks gotta turn for old Ben.
It's been kind of chaotic at the moment. I had to edit 3.5 episodes of Romancing the Dungeon to get them ready so that I don't have to worry and panic and we don't have to take a break for the month of June. So that's been fun, staying up till 2 a.m. editing those.
Sounds it. I bet you don't hate us all. It's just by the natural, like, this guy's really rubbing the mic the wrong way. I have heard these episodes. We get as players, we get a little sneak peek and do a little quality check on them, and they are incredible. So at the very least, not that they ever are, but at least they're not dud episodes. At least they're good. At least they're great piece of content.
They passed the Romancing the Dungeon /D8 Dungeon quality assurance check, which is, can we hear everything? Yeah, great.
Will this actively lose us listeners?
It won't not do that.
Yeah, it won't gain us anyone. But the people are here are locked in. Yes, and thanks for joining us in chat, Seamaster D. Glad to have you for this one. We know that you are usually doing your own show on Thursdays, and actually potentially letting the cats out of bags. Seamaster D might be on a roll with me while Declan is away on his honeymoon. So that's the plan as it currently sits. I've already thrown a couple of spanners in it by messing around with the schedule, but we'll see what we do. So,
how's that network going?
Yeah. Don't worry, D8 will still be here when you return. It's in safe hands. Actually, we should, maybe it's an offline chat or whatever, decide whether we want to host it here on the D8 channel or whether you want to save your reputation and we do some defibrillation on the old Homebrew Show Twitch for the next On A Roll. But sure, look, we can decide that offline.
We'll figure it out. Tonight, though, it's kind of a split episode because we had we have an amazing interview with Ryan from Hearthfire Tales that Ben got to do, and we're going to get to that in like a second or two, but we were hoping to then follow that on with talking about atmosphere and creating a real sense of the space for the players and the mood and the tone. And then we decided to throw that out the window. We're still doing the interview because something else came up kind of late last week over the weekend, and it kind of caught both Ben and I our attention, and we started chatting about it. And we'll be talking about the 44 rules from my DM post and player and table etiquette this session as well. So we're going to talk about music, and we've said we're going to come back to that.
Yes.
Which is actually just another excuse to talk to Ryan.
Really, yeah. Exactly. And we'd be curious as viewers whether, like, because up until now, what are we, 7-8 episodes into the show? We've been kind of like one topic, one show. Let's kind of focus on that. If you prefer us sort of jumping around, like an interview about one thing and then like chatting about another, if you like this sort of like jump from topic to topic and us just rolling with it, for lack of a better phrase, let us know, because we will then vary it up every episode and not have a one topic, one theme, and just go into here's a jumble of stuff we're going to talk about this week, which may be more chaotic, but that also might be more fun. So we'll find out.
And not going to help my anxiety at all around organizational structure.
Yeah. What are you talking about next time?
We're never going to be on that network.
If you've seen the not prepping episode, you know how uncomfortable that made Declan, and how I was just like, yeah, be fine.
I'm all for a little bit of,
Yes. No. That's I'm being unfair for theatrics.
Oh, okay. That I can get behind. So yeah, if you are if you're out there and you want to, what works, what do you think would work way better going forward? Ben and I are kind of really, really open to people saying, do this, don't do this, do more of that, do less of that. Obviously, if it's stop this is terrible, turn on, close it down.
If enough people tell us, we will be bullied off the internet. Yes. My skin is not that thick.
Neither is mine, but I am stubborn as shit, so I will persevere.
Yes. Fair. Actually, my stubbornness would kick in.
Yeah. I'll prove them wrong. I'll work myself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Quit. No, I'll burn out like a star.
One you couldn't really see, and that was over there.
Yeah, one that was hidden behind the moon or whatever. I don't know how stars work. What am I, an astrologist?
Yes, you are.
I was.
What? You go.
I was trying to purposely say astronomer, the one that does star signs, to get it wrong. Like, what am I, an astronomer? But then I actually don't. Astrologist, astronomer. I think I did get it wrong. Astrologist is the star sign one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, you did.
Nailed that stupid joke.
Also, while making us look like we don't know what the difference between those.
Yes. Oh, 044. Slight echo when Declan talks. So I wonder if Ben's mic gain is too high. It might be because this new setup. Maybe I'll just turn you down. I've been waiting for an excuse.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's lovely.
Okay, I can hear you still.
Okay, can you?
Yeah.
Great. That's just the sound of my sweet dulcet tones.
Let me know if that's solved the echo, because it could have easily been coming from these headphones to that microphone on my phone, I think, or these headphones to the microphone. We don't know where my mic is right now. We don't know what's picking me up, but something is.
I think chat said it's all better. I was seeing like a tiny little blip on your audio feed. All right, on this, but it was like barely there. But obviously,
Nice.
I'm not seeing it as much now. So hopefully,
Nice.
that's
Yeah. Thank you, Zone44. I appreciate it. It's a nice quick check.
Also, we're terrible at this. I'm terrible at this. I'm the producer, so I'm terrible at this.
And I'm terrible because I don't lift a finger.
He really doesn't. He just goes on about the network. That's all he does.
Yeah. I'm like, the network was on to me about ratings the other day. They want us to know, out of 10, what do we rate a Beholder? I give it like a 7.
No, I'm not giving you that one at all.
Fair, I wouldn't follow me down that path.
while before we jump to the interview with Ryan, I just want to quickly, because tonight for chat we've kind of a new prompt, and we want to know about specific rules that you have as a player or as a DM for when it comes to a session and your table kind of etiquette. Like, so that can be anything. That doesn't like we're not looking for you to like shock us. It's just like are there like it could be something simple as who brings the snacks,
Mm,
or are there snacks even allowed? That kind of
yeah.
stuff. So
It can be a lack of rules, like get up and go pee whenever you want. You don't need to put up your hand and say, DM, I'm okay to come till beyond hours. I
yeah,
mean, at my table you do, but at other tables,
you don't.
yeah, you know.
So let us know, and I've because we're going to come back to that in the second half. So we'd love to know about the specific rules that you have with your group or at your table, whether you're the player or the DM. And I think that's a good
Yeah.
time to check out this awesome interview. So interview away. I don't.
Hello, and a very special On A Roll welcome to our guest this episode, Ryan, who you might know as Sid from the main Lethawan campaign, you might know as Brittany from Retro Stellar, you might know as Russ from Everdale, or the DM of all of the Halloween specials, including Wizards. Yes, all collectively from Hearthfire Tales.
All the scary stuff that comes from
Yeah, you locked them in a cabin.
I did, yeah. First time in a cabin, then we were in a church the second time around. I don't know what I'm going to do for 3. Maybe just kill them, you know?
Crypts. Yeah. Cabin, church, crypts, woods. First
Yeah.
scary places, supermarkets. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. Today, we are going to talk specifically to you about the music you make and produce for your tabletop show, Hearthfire Tales, and potentially beyond that as well. Now, you write the music for Hearthfire. I'm going to assume it's not the first time you've picked up an instrument.
No, it's not. You can kind of see behind me, I've started to kind of collect them over the years. My wife has insisted that I send you some pictures from back in the day that I can show you. But no, I started, at some point pop them up. But I actually started playing music very, very young. My mother insisted that I learn to play piano. And I reached that point where I just like didn't want to practice, and I hated it, and I wanted to learn guitar because I was like, Mom, girls think it's cool when guys can play guitar. And she was like, no, girls are gonna think it's cool if you can play piano. And I was like, no, Mom, you're an idiot, you know, because I was so young and everything. Got to college and found out, wow, I really wish I had practiced piano more because girls think it's cool if you can play piano.
The foundation for all music. It's if you know that, then you know. But
Exactly. But yeah, from the time I was young, I started playing a lot of different things for kind of that reason. I was in multiple choirs. I played trumpet. I played in, rock bands and things like that. And in my first year of college, since piano wasn't working out, my metal band actually got signed, and I went on tour for 4 years. And then that didn't work out, so then I just escaped to Ireland, and now I'm here doing D&D and playing music for that.
Well, I can tell you we are super glad to have you. And next party we're at together, instead of you cracking out a guitar, you can crack out a piano, play furlies, and everyone's going to go,
"Oh, yeah." Or maybe a trumpet or something like that. Yeah.
So it's your foundation of music is enviable, to say one thing, but I can imagine specifically when it comes to TTRPGs, it's different to score a podcast than it is to like write a 3-minute or a 7-minute or even like a 12-minute concept album. Like, so how does your process differ for the show versus when you're just like, I believe in the industry, they call it noodling and jamming?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very different. Like when you're writing a song, you know that that's the main thing that people are listening to, and you are able to create your art like start to finish. That's your entire thing. That that's the focus of it. Your lyrics, your music, whatever you want to put into it. Where when you're writing for something like this, it really is an accent to it. I do think it's an important accent. Like the music and also just the sound staging can really set the emotions for a piece. Like, none of us can claim to be professional actors. So we need that little bit of help here or there. And, for example, like we've got a very important episode called Laid to Rest. And at the beginning of that, there's rain and there's, our theme, I just play it with piano and I play it quite slow. And it tells you before you even get into it that this is a sad moment. This is a sad piece. And when you're doing that, you can't, when you're writing for TTRPGs, it's got to just be like that. Hey, it's this kind of scene, as opposed to, man, I'm going to jam my guitar as fast as I can, it just needs to be little things to tell people what it's like,
It's so true, because music not only sets emotion, it can set genre, it can set era. Like we all know what it would sound like if the two of us bust in the swinging doors of a Western. We're not going to hear jazz.
Yeah.
But we walk down, like cigarette in hand, fedora on, and we start hearing some plinky plonky saloon music. We're like, we're in the wrong show.
Yeah.
Which brings me to something I was being curious. Heartfire put out a lot of content, and if you haven't watched any of it, why? There's so much. There's something for everyone. But the span of it between Whispering Ashes, between the main Let the One campaign, from Retro Stellar, you genre hop like with a deftness to say, you say you're not professional actors. You wouldn't tell from being a fan of the show. But when it comes to writing the scores for these, how do you find it? Is it a fun opportunity, or you're like, oh no, we're doing Gothic?
It can be quite tough. And I think if it wasn't for my mom forcing me to learn a lot of different instruments and play with a lot of different people, I think it would be a lot harder for me. Like, for example, when I first started learning banjo, it was from this old farmer down the road, and he invited me to just come sit on his porch with him and learn to play banjo with him. And things like that helped me kind of form that foundation of being able to genre swap a bit. But it is tough. I'm not as big of a fantasy head as you would imagine with what I, do, and with what all the other guys do. So like writing those big fantasy pieces that you hear a lot, that's actually a lot tougher for me, to go into that. The easiest by far would be the scary stuff. I watch a lot of scary movies. I do a lot of scary stuff, and also it's a lot of drones. So I just hit one note for a long time. Things that are tough are like, man, I got into my head, and in the first episode, you hear me be like, man, I'm so excited to score all of Retro Stellar. The 80s layer a lot. So that turned into me needing to sit down and like really write for a long time, and put a lot into it, a lot more effort than I normally do for the other stuff, because I can put a little bit of piano, I can put a little bit of guitar, and it's fine. You can't go, this is 80s synthwave with just one keyboard. So,
Yeah, it's every instrument has its own melody in an 80s track, and then suddenly you're writing 4 complementary melodies
yeah.
that all work together. I'm a big 80s fan, and I was glad to see that there's a Swedish band called the Night Flight Orchestra. I don't know if you know of them, but they do like, I'll send it to you afterwards. They're so good, and it's all like airplane and flight themed music, which
Nice.
kind of like too. And they all have it's like captains and stewards and stuff. I haven't never seen them live, but they just seem like a hell of a good time.
So good.
But it is that mix of like power 80s synth, and it's like, I know it's the type of music that drives people wild if they don't like it.
Yeah.
You gotta listen to this. It's like, no, I feel like Christian Bale in American Psycho being like, look at this is look at this. This is really nice. Was there, I suppose this, you might have answered this, or we kind of wrapped around it. Would you say that Retro Stellar was the hardest arc? Was that the most challenging, or was there anything that comes in mind, or even a moment that you found?
I think probably one of the hardest things is that, and and we're getting better at it, you know, we're learning, is weighing my ambitions and all of our ambitions versus what is actually realistic. You know, we put out an episode, an hour-long episode, which means each one is recorded for about 2 hours, you know, and then we cut it down. And we put something out every 2 weeks for just Lethwan. And within Lethwan, we're getting a bit better because I told Dillon it wasn't sustainable for me to not know ahead of time what genres I needed to be prepping. But originally I really wanted to score everything, you know, start to finish, and do it fresh and not reuse any, you know, anything at all, which was silly of me. And you have that, like we have an episode called Bellicor, and then the following episode from that, and then also the episode Stone's Reach, that I fully scored them. And it took me about 20 hours per episode on that, which is a lot.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sure there is a noticeable difference in terms of satisfaction, in terms of being like, what an accomplishment. But then
Yeah.
the recovery time must be equally tough. It's something we were chatting about actually before the interview started, which is the passion, the time, the energy, sometimes literal blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making ETTRPGs. And it's something you can really tell, but it is tough to find that balance between, because a lot of us do this in our spare time. We have full-time jobs. We, you know, we're not being paid, or if we are, it's barely even breaking even, or not even covering costs. It's just recouping some losses. And would you find, I suppose, having done it for music and then knowing that you're playing, and then on top of the live shows, of course, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, have you any tips or guidance for anyone who might be currently trying to balance it, whether they're doing this a long time? Because sometimes I think you can lose yourself in how long you're doing it, or stepping in for the first time, some guardrails to protect yourself from burnout.
100%. Yeah, I think the main thing is that all of us that are in the D&D sphere, I think it comes from the gaps that we oftentimes have from between when we get to play with our friends. You know, it's always that struggle of finding time to play. And as a result, we all become very creative people, and we love making up new characters and new settings and things like that. And in the same way, I get kind of ambitious and want to, you know, and as any type of content creator, you want to make and make and make and make. And the thing is that when it comes to this ETTRPG stuff, is give people time to fall in love with what you have. And I've really found that, and you'll notice as as you get into our later episodes, I revisit the same themes. And I've written things like fight music, or I've written things like, oh, this is when you're in a city, or this is a dramatic thing. And I reuse those themes. And it gives people a way to be like, as soon as the music starts, they're like, oh man, I recognize this from, you know, whatever situation before. And I think that you can bring that into all parts of ETTRPG and content creation in general, is give people time to fall in love with what you've created before you rush on to the next thing.
I think that's such great and invaluable advice, because the initial step in will have such a huge demand for content, but then there is no reason not to kind of, as they would say in the biz, sweat them assets.
Yeah.
And it's something I often say when I'm writing, which is audiences don't like surprises. They like suspense. And
Yeah.
suspense can be achieved through music in such wonderful ways. And if Sid has a theme, if Khan has a theme, if Mr. Fisher has a theme, and you start to hear it before they're introduced, you're like, oh, I think I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And an audience will love it. So it is well worth setting expectations and then meeting your audience at those expectations as well.
Yeah.
Which is
The
fantastic.
other, if there's time for one last bit of advice,
Oh, there's plenty of time. Don't worry.
that would be stand on the shoulders of those that have come before you. You know, I said that I originally wanted to score everything, and Hearthfire Tales has music all throughout it. And we stopped saying all music written by Ryan Dillon and started going to featuring music by Ryan Dillon. Because before I started writing music, we had a subscription to Epidemic Sound, and we've kept that subscription. And even if it's just things that I pull down like a beat or I pull down a melody or something like that, it makes it much more sustainable for me to be able to use it. And I think there's a lot of pressure on us in the content creation sphere to do everything from scratch. And I don't think you need to. I think there's some beautiful things that exist out there already, and there's nothing wrong with using those. And people will, you know, have potentially heard it before. There's the Retro Stellar theme in the ad that we used. I didn't write that, and a lot of people liked it and loved it, you know. And now we are frequently getting comments from people being like, "Oh man, I heard that same thing because it was used in what is it called? Very Important People, one of their episodes, and
Yes.
somebody used the same ad tune, and people are like, "Oh man, that made me think of Retro Stiller," and I think it's perfectly fine to use things like that. You know, don't steal, but you know, like,
But you couldn't be
yeah.
more like right about these things. If you like a couple of my favorite shows, Bucket of Milk do Rude Tales of Magic. I know they're Stars of Space. They're a group in New York. And I was listening to one of their episodes and I recognized the music and I was like, where do I know it from? And it's from It's Always Sunny. So It's Always
Yeah.
Sunny aren't even buying their own, like, aren't like getting exclusive rights to stuff. It's just a
Yeah.
very common, like, actually that's Curb. But it was like just middle between scenes musics. I think they talk about it on their podcast as well. It's like, we just found a track, we liked it. We don't have exclusive rights to it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I hesitate to ask because of we've just come off talking about how much of a time consuming this can be, but is there shows out there, if there are any other ETTRPG shows out there, do you take commissions? Is your work available for other people to use on shows? Speaking of kind of take from places and standing on the shoulders, in this case, you being the giants.
Yeah, I've actually just branched into that. Just branched into it. I've just had my first client, and I don't think I can quite say who it is yet.
Sure.
But one of the kind of more well-known TTRPG groups are using music from me for a horror show
Very
coming up.
cool.
So yeah, absolutely, taking work like that, but slowly. Because you know it does take some time, but yeah, would love to do things like that. There's nothing quite like having your own theme song and knowing that nobody else has it. When we started Hearthfire Tales, a lot of people recognize our theme song that actually isn't the one that I wrote, because you know there's a lot of episodes that don't have it, and I finally just was like, I'm sick of this. I want our theme song to be something I wrote, and so now we've switched to it, and now it's a bit more of a metal theme. But it is so nice to just have your own theme song, and I want to be able to help people with that, you know.
Amazing. And we'll have links throughout the chat. We'll have links in the description if you're watching this on the VOD to where you can contact Ryan, so that you can get in touch if you are interested or if you're looking for it. Even if you don't have an ETTRPG and you just want like theme song for yourself to walk in,
Yeah.
like yeah, you know, it's good. It's nice to have your own ringtone. People still use every phone's on silent these days.
I'd love to write a ringtone for somebody. That'd be hilarious.
Your call, then your call. I suppose that would be what they'd hear. Ben, your phone's ringing would be the handier thing.
Yeah, it's me on a ukulele, just like,
oh, nice. That's sweet. That's great.
Yeah, where did that thumbs up come from? That's great.
Does this do anything? Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Whoa, combo. I've learned. I wouldn't say it is my job to know all these, but I've learned them all.
Oh my gosh.
Actually,
Well,
there's a little Hearthfire one. I think this one works. Retro player Hearthfire. Nice.
Does it work for me? When I do it? No.
Sorry, it's the sweet upgrade. What can I say?
I was really looking forward to my team meeting tomorrow morning.
Yeah, true. So guys, we've got some unfortunate corporate news to deliver today. We're not doing well.
Fantastic.
On the profits and the losses. To close out this chat, and Ryan, I want to have you back as often as possible because I love chatting about music. I love chatting to you. I love chatting about tabletop games. There's so much more for us to talk about. And if you're watching along, actually, if you have any questions for when we bring Ryan back, please do send them on our way, and I'll make sure to pop them in the old cabinet of questions, and I'll keep them there for anything you want to know. I suppose you could also just message Ryan. You don't have to go through. You can. But there's big things coming for Hardfire Tales. Coming from. There's big things coming. One of the things we're going to talk about, a potentially neat little project, exclusive announcement, which we'll end this interview with. But before that, there is a live show coming up in July, on July 13th in Smock Alley Theatre. And I'm spiking the camera hard because I am an idiot. I am going to be away for all of July. So I'm furiously jealous of everyone who has tickets, who will get tickets, and who gets to go because, well, I suppose, what can you tell the audience about what to expect from a live show?
Chaos. They're so much fun. I don't want to spoil too much, but last time we turned everyone into our party gnomes. So you can expect hats and things like that, and then lots of just chaos running around. Bring your character sheet, or at least, bring a character that you want to be, and you might end up on stage with us if we don't turn you into a rat in the process.
Or if they do too.
Yeah.
You won't be the only rat on stage.
No, we normally make someone else be Fink. So.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. Yeah. Everyone's favorite lovable. Did he stay dyed yellow from the time I was playing with you guys?
No, not in the main Lethwan stuff, but
That's
he did. I don't know how caught up you are, Ben, but he did just get electric powers.
I did. No, I know that. Yes.
Yeah.
I am not caught
So
up.
it's just full on. We're gonna get a C&D here soon.
No, a corporation are nice. I don't know. They seem fine. But why don't we end with some announcements from yourself? You occasionally, as we said, the Halloween shows you DM, but there's another thing you're DMing for Hearthfire coming up. If you want to leave us on a nice little tantalizing cliffhanger.
Yes, absolutely. If you've been on our Twitch recently, we've been doing Wizards of Wild Space, but as that is coming toward an end, and we want to keep Twitch going, and I've not been part of Wizards of Wild Space, so I got to get in on Twitch now. And we are going to be doing a fun little thing with Ben included, doing the Avatar RPG. And we're going to be doing a story that takes place between the time of when Aang gets frozen in the iceberg and before the first show starts. So very excited for that, and definitely come and check it out. It's going to be crazy. So.
And we've gotten word from the studios, it is canon. Anything that happens definitely happens
exactly.
in the world. It's super canon, actually. It supersedes anything that contradicts the show.
Exactly. They'll change episodes if anything happens.
They're working on scenes right now to slide in. So if you're watching Avatar in the future and you're like, I remember it being like this, it's because you're missing.
Yeah, exactly.
The show. I'm really looking forward to it. I have a couple of characters in mind. I just need to decide. That's it's the choice of which road do I take. But yes, that will be a very exciting show that I'm looking forward. And thank you so much for asking me to be a part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Until
I guess I should clarify. I'm sure people know it by now, but it's the Avatar, the Last Airbender RPG. We're not going to be blue people. But,
what?
There go both my characters.
I thought we were playing weird, limbless metaverse people. I just thought we were playing my Second Life character. Is that where the word Avatar first came from? I don't think so. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode, Ryan. I can't wait to have you back, and I can't wait for that stream to start. Until then, though, back to Ben and Declan in the studio.
Hi, we're Horde of Tales. We're an EU-based actual play Twitch channel. We have a long-form D&D campaign.
You may note us as 1, 2, 2,
Three.
3.
The plane
Plane
jumpers.
diver. No.
Divers?
How did we mess this up?
And we're the new home of the EU Happy Hour.
Look, I placed them down where I thought they would be. I didn't say it was right.
We often have short-term flights that you can be a part of.
I have never heard or read a Regency-era love letter that sounded more like a booty call than that.
It's open to interpretation.
Come add to our collection at twitch.tv/Horde of Tales.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to the latest episode of Social Shenanigans.
You haven't seen any cows, have you?
Once.
Going to cast I'm sorry in advance. I'm going to cast heat metal on the horse's bit.
Oh.
Believed to be Shark. Shark kind of pulls herself back and she's like, well, it looks like we have ourselves a game.
And we're back. Hello.
We're back. That's class. That was it was so interesting just to see how crucial, important I think music is, and also the work that goes into it. No, doing these things is enough. So fair play, honestly. That's like immense, absolutely immense.
Part of me was tempted, because we were obviously chatting before we hit record for the interview and all that kind of stuff, just about like protecting yourself when making content and how easy it is to get totally absorbed by it, and it's a fast road to burnout, really. It can be if you don't know where to put your guardrails, and there's probably a whole chat, we know we'll have Ryan back and the other guys from Heartfire Tales. There's probably a whole chat about that, just getting it'd be lovely to do like a round table of creators, as many as we could possibly get. That doesn't make it chaotic, just to be like, and the simple question is, everyone's camera on, how do you feel about burnout? So if you'd be interested in hearing about that, let us know. If it feels a bit kind of like, all right, guys, a little violin for your passion that you put a lot of effort in, then yes, it's very navel gazing as well. So I understand if people might be like, bit much.
I disagree with you. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's a big difference. If that was us as a bunch of GMs and players sitting around going, God, this can be really draining playing these characters. Yes, I'd be like, it's our hobby. It's what we're doing. The difference there is you're now creating something for consumption, and the burnout there isn't the playing the game. It's the managing the stream. It's the editing of the podcast. It's all the other bits that come with it that are kind of invisible, I guess, to the audience. And hopefully invisible, because that's the whole point of it. If you're editing them well and you're producing them well, which we will get there too eventually. We will do that eventually. No guarantees. But those are the things that I think take massive tolls on anyone that is in sort of the actual play space. Because it's we're playing the game, great, that's a couple of hours, and then there's everything else afterwards.
Like a good example, I suppose, is before the show, around 6:30, so like an hour before the show, I was like, I'm covered in work. I'm just going to walk this work stank off me. I'm just going to go to the park and walk it off. And I go, and I instantly start feeling a little bit better. And I find, I have mental capacity to plug tonight's show. So I'm just like, right, out comes the phone, and away we go. But like, barely a second passes for my mind to sit still, and I'm like, plug the shot, do the plugging thing, and like the effort it takes even to get over the people are sick of my face. Like, they don't want to, but I have to remind myself they wouldn't follow if they didn't want to be reminded about these things. And I have to remember myself when other people post, when I see people I love watching, when I see people's streams go live, when I see show announcements go out, I'm thrilled as an audience, as a fan, as someone who's like a huge supporter of this. I'm like, oh, thank fuck you reminded me, because I barely remember. So like seeing that in a Discord, in like a promo channel, like it might seem like it goes unnoticed, but I promise you, it definitely helps me as a fan of something to be like, oh shit, like there's plenty of nights I'm sitting around going, oh, can I want to second screen something I'm playing, or like, I don't want to watch, and I'll go onto Discord and I'll go, anyone post anything recent in a promo channel? I'm like, oh, brilliant, I'll jump in. And I've discovered some of my favorite people from that.
I love it's kind of one of my things. I love the Twitch notification for some of the streams that I'm like, I get to follow, and it's a thing of I'm doing nothing. I'm correcting papers, or I'm playing Nintendo, or I'm doing something that doesn't require a huge amount of correcting papers. Also requires you to use attention. And just in case there is anybody from the quality assurance department,
then I can just like scroll in or whatever. Yeah, throw them downstairs, see where they land. I know them after a year. I know who's doing it.
I mentioned at the start that I've spent the last kind of week and a half, 2 weeks editing like 3 episodes of, so that's episode 8, 9, and 10 of Grove is in the Heart. So those all got edited, and then I had to then record something else today for after those bits. And I like, there was a moment yesterday where I was editing, and I came home from work, and I'm really tired because it's coming to the end of the year, and everyone's like, it's May, Declan, it's not coming to the end. It's coming to the end of the year for teachers.
Yes, the academic year is the weirdest year in the world. My wife's also a teacher, and she's like, maybe next year. And like, you're talking about October this year. She's like, yeah, next year.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It's a thing. It really is a thing. So it's you know, work is work. So you then have to come home and you have to face into that. And like, anyone out there that does any kind of editing, it's not difficult, but it's time consuming. It takes a huge amount of time. And I had to this is an episode where we had a couple of new classes in the fray, classes where we would never have certain spells or abilities. And for me, editing an episode, doddle, it's an absolute doddle. But it's I now have to turn around and figure out what mass healing word sounds like in the world of Romancing the Dungeon. And the time that goes into that takes. And I was like, I started editing at 8, and I didn't finish last night until 2 this morning. And I didn't even finish the edit. I'd still about 27 minutes left to go. And it was just like, I remember about halfway through it kind of getting really kind of frustrated with myself, and I just started listening to it. And then I have no problem saying this, I actually had a bit of a cry. Like I had a bit of a like, I think I was a little overwhelmed, a little stressed, and then it was a really wonderful moment that I got to listen to, and it just hit me, and I settled back into it. Like I kind of found the creative energy to go again, but I was just wrecked. It's just so wrecked. And so I definitely, this is a long way of saying it. Like, I definitely think that talking about creative burnout and managing that energy is huge. So that's something that we should definitely, I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, right there.
I'm going to write that down.
And it's Declan has to deal with creative burnout, but he also has to deal with like sending a message into the group being like, does anyone have any ideas for what mass healing word will sound like? And then me responding being like, it's like, no, I don't want you to make the noise, Ben. So I'm like, what about this? Lord save us, Lord graciously save us, Lord save us, Lord graciously save us. And you're like, I don't have time for your stupid jokes. But
actually, that's why I was crying.
It's like, oh my goodness, I just need like tactical notes, like a little bit of reverb on top of what. But the good news is, if you're healing words, just echo that. That's mass healing word. What you have done is brave, by the way.
Yeah,
So
that's the way I did it. I added a little bit. I added a little bit of a zhuzh to it. We're kind of getting sidetracked. I would love to talk about creative burnout and imposter syndrome in a big way, because those are two little ghosts that sit on my shoulders.
Well, I think this is an accidental segue, because we totally unprompted to set that chat. But I think what we're about to talk about, this table etiquette and these 44 rules that my DM sent, comes from a place of, I'm putting all this work in and I want to see it recognized or respected or sort of acknowledged or in any way honored. The place it's coming from, I think, is quite normal. The execution of it, or the result of these things, is where it gets a little odd. And it's something that we were chatting about before, and I hope as we chat about these things, it is seen with a level of love, understanding, a level of kind of I fucking get it. But then also to jump off it, to kind of launch pad off it into this is what I might do with hindsight or with foresight or how it might be better handled. Because I'm sure every DM in the world has seen Red at we're good to play Saturday? Yeah. Friday, 11 p.m. This Saturday? Oh, I can't do this Saturday. Actually, me neither. Oh, me neither. Right. So not only have I prepped something that might never happen, I've also said no to my own personal plans. So now I'm left with a Saturday where I have nothing to do.
I remember when I saw the piece first, the post. I remember kind of reading it, and I had this. I had kind of my immediate reaction was like, oh yeah, nope, I really get it. And then I guess I tell you what, in case you haven't seen it, let's cut to that now. So might not be the biggest on your screens, but the image, if you just Google image search, my DM laid out the 44 rules for D&D, and you can see 16 of them here. For anyone that can't read it, it starts with, my DM just posted this after a hiatus. Enjoy. I'll just put this shit out now that's going to change before anyone goes through with anything. And what proceeds after that then is 44 rules that this DM has laid out for their table and for their group to kind of start adhering to. And it's really interesting that if you park the I don't want to say the hysteria, but if you park that sort of the immediate response and actually drill down into it, it's like, so I'm timing turns. I don't give a fuck if it's unfair in your opinion, because your spells are hard or you don't know what square to move to. You get 1 minute to know all the actions you want to take, or I skip your turn. If you want harder fights, bring a second character sheet and expect to twiddle your thumbs when you die. I'm not going to baby anyone. And there's a lot of this that kind of continues on to it. Every snide comment you make to an NPC will be remembered and paid back in triplicate. You all seem to believe there is little consequence. Rule number 15, if you get too stoned or drunk to play, I will go home without a warning. Your warning is here. There's an awful lot to kind of look at in this. And I remember seeing a lot of the comments around it were actually very negative about the DM. And to be fair, my initial reaction was also, yeah, fuck that guy. That's a bit nuts. And it was only then when I stopped and I kind of had to think about it. And it kind of goes to what you were saying, Ben. There is this sort of onus on the DM, the game master, the storyteller, whatever role you're sitting in as the person leading the session, that if you don't see reciprocation of that, it leads to this, I think.
Yeah, what we don't have here is the context. What we don't know is what led to this. And maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was one infraction of a table rule, and it's right, I've won 4 rules, here we go. Or it could have been weeks, months, years of build up and frustration. And we don't know. And it's a shame, because actually Zone 44 touched upon in chat earlier about the policy of like no phones, and if I need to take up my phone, it's understood. And understood is the key word there. There is a sense of, oh, I get it. Like if someone gets too drunk or too stoned all the time, it's going to get pretty annoying. If especially in a home game, not for entertainment, not for content or any of that kind of stuff, and we're just all blowing off steam and everyone's had a rough week, like I'll go easy on a friend who just clearly goes out too hard, and like I'm not going to give them a shit time, and they'll probably message me in the morning being like, oh, I'm so sorry, I think I went too far there. And it's like, look, we all need to blow off steam every once in a while. I hope you're okay, hope everything's fine, let me know if you want to sit down and chat. In the same way that like I've definitely been that player where like in my younger years, it's like 3 a.m. in the morning. Like you've been playing for like 8 hours and you've just been kind of steadily drinking, and you're like, I don't know if I remember the last like half an hour, but I also don't know if anyone else does, and that's pretty good. And like a lot of my like younger like teenage and early 20 games just sort of end up with everyone just getting kind of sleepy and going, I think I might gotta call it a night, and then we just pick it up from wherever we could remember the next time we played. And I know Master D will relate to that because we were playing together. They were way more well behaved than I was, but it was a case that it's like you're playing off steam with friends. It is important to like respect each other's time. Don't come in half cut before the game even begins, and definitely don't go full cut when you're trying to like just have a good time and be mentally aware and there enough. And like I say that with all the love of my heart because I was that player for a long time. So I know why this DM's frustrated.
I joke quite a bit that I'm the eternal DM. I don't like. It's not that I don't like being a player. I like being a player. I think I've put that out there too often now. I don't get asked to play anymore. I like playing. I like dropping in. This is me kind of taking that back a little bit. I love playing games and I love joining other streams and joining stuff. So ask me, I'm available. I'd love to play. But most of my experience is predominantly as the DM, and I guess I'm doing this well, like over 20 years, and I have most of the time I'm playing with friends, and when I say that, I mean people that I know. Thanks, Talon. You can hit me up at Dubda on Discord. I'm very much a big, and we've said this a couple of times, open communication at the table constantly, and talking about these things. Because for me now, kind of thinking back to these 44 rules, I think the key thing here is there is either no communication, or there's little communication, or there's been some sort of breakdown in that. I mean, there's one of the rules that we hear is, I will give out exhaustion more frequently. If you argue, go home, or you can actually fight me over it, you can DM yourself. I mean, I'm all for talking about using electronic devices at the table. I'm all for talking about consuming alcohol or whatever at the table. These things this to me now is kind of speaks more to a sense of the dungeon master is clearly not happy with how sessions have been running the last number of like that, and maybe it was one session that all 44 of these infractions happened
15 minutes in.
My read of it is that this is kind of a long time coming, that these are things that and Master has kind of said it for me. They're not rules. You're actually punishing your table. Like there's something there about like having your hit points if you're late without a valid excuse. Yeah. Like what's that going to do? Like that's only going to further any sort of divide between the DM and the player in what is, let's just remind ourselves, collaborative storytelling. Like, we're meant to all play together, not I'm over here in this half of the table and you're over there on that half of the table, and the game happens in the middle.
It reminds me of a point that's often forgotten, or like you don't really see it until you're out of it, which is the right table for the right people is incredibly important. There is a table out there for this DM who feel just as strongly about all these things as they do. And there's also a table out there for those players. Just want to rock up, play, jump in, like roll a couple of dice, like dip in and out. Both of those tables exist. Trying to make one table the other, down that road lies pain for everyone involved. Down that road lies broken friendships, real hurt feelings. It lies just nothing but like badness. It reminds me of a story, and like not to get real worlds too much on it, but like there was like story from like old school American politics where like Democrats and Republicans will be like at each other's throats in Congress during the workday, and then they go for drinks and they'll be like, that's politics. After 6, we can be friends again. So it's like having that same approach to like, yeah, I gave you a shit time as a DM. It's my job to have consequences and stakes. And I hope you give me like a hard time as players. You're trying to defeat like the big bad. But when the session's over, when the game is done, we can go, right, yeah. All right, now it's back to being, I'm no longer a Jalius Steele, happy-go-lucky, optimistic man. I'm now Ben Clifford, gritty realist, and my characters are very different to me.
Yeah, and I'm not a horny tabaxi cat lady.
Yeah, precisely. we have table personas, and they're very different.
So different. But it is. I guess I wanted to kind of looking at those, and then kind of again seeing to what chat have offered in terms of their table. I do actually have a kind of a couple of rules that I would have around the table. Again, one of my big ones, and we are going to be talking about it in its own right, is I don't actually play a game without a session 0. I like, generally speaking, even if it's a one shot at an event where we may not have the time to sit down and talk about full safety tools and lines of veils and stuff like that, I will do kind of a very quick crash course in, hey, we're a bunch of strangers, this is a fun game, we're doing something fun, and we're doing this. And if anything comes up that you don't like, this is how you're going to get out of it. This is how you're going to get me to shut up. And you can be as subtle as, I'm going to make an X with my hands, and as direct as, Declan, shut the F up. I don't want to do that anymore. And I will fade to black for the next thing. And I don't get upset about it.
Nope.
That's, so I'm generally one of my big rules is we're doing this, but we're going to do it properly. And we are, and again, it kind of speaks to what Dillon and Dragons was saying. We're here to have fun. And we want to make sure that everybody is having fun, not just 3 of us out of 4, and that 4th person is upset or feeling uncomfortable or feeling awkward and can't. One of my lesser rules, or one of my big things, and this is just a pet peeve: unnecessary dice rolling. Or fidget dice rolling, I guess, is a big thing. And it's, for me, it's it's. I'm not to get all ASMR on it, but it's that thing of, as you're talking and there's just this constant like thump at the table, and I'm just, it's the equivalent of somebody poking me that like, oh, there's a dice being rolled, oh, there's a dice being rolled, oh, there's a dice being rolled, and you're like, okay, it's a personal thing, and it's something that I would often ask at the tables. Do you include dice towers in that, Declan? I don't actually I rarely see dice towers at a table, and I have 3, and I never use them. I think I have them as a decoration more than anything else. Again, if you're rolling the dice in a dice tower, because it's your action, like it's you're doing a wait, okay, we're
people stacking their dice.
Like, no, because that's not making
silent,
any noise.
right?
Yeah. Quiet. That's and like, God, you're talking to somebody here who is a expert in fidgeting and not sitting still. Like I talk talk with my hands. These are constantly doing something here. Like, I swear I missed my calling as like a stage musician or something. But I have a thing. Just I think it's more of the sound kind of just kind of get to me, and I will shut up, Ben, but I do want to address Miss Althea's crosstalk. Crosstalk when describing a scene as a DM is tricky, which brings me to then the difference from a game that we're playing here and then mic etiquette when it comes to recording. So whether it's on the stream or for something like the podcast, obviously the dice rolling there makes sense because if somebody was just constantly rolling dice for the sake of it, it's going to be weird. You're going to ruin the recording. But it is that thing, and I think crosstalk is harder in a capacity where we're playing virtually, because in the room those cues are a little bit easier, I think, to pick up on, a little bit easier to read for some of us. They're a little bit easier to pick up on, and not everybody, but definitely I find online that cross-talking thing happens where and I'm a devil for kind of a dramatic pause, and I'm putting a pause for a reason, and then a player will just jump in with something. I'm like, I wasn't finished. I was just being dramatic.
It's like learning people's beats is hard, because I know for me at a table, and like I can't help but think in wordplay. So if someone says like, bear with me, even in real life, you'll see my hands just kind of go, I can't, like it's an impulsive. I'm like, bear with me, and I don't know why, and I can't help myself. And I'm sure someone out there, someone in chat's like, oh, I know why. It's these 4 letters you haven't been diagnosed with, and I'm like, oh right, yeah, that explains it. But I don't mind if players are kind of whispering to each other, clarifying something while I'm talking specifically to someone else. If I'm setting the scene for a load of people and 2 people are going, what's I know it's not for me, and that's okay. So like I'm like, yeah, fine, go ahead. And I remember chatting to a friend of mine who lives over in Canada, and they were kind of like talking about different tables and how to deal with people who need to do something at the table. So like I was explaining that someone doing something that looks like they're distracted, or someone doing something that looks like they're not paying attention, might be, for that person, the only way they can pay attention. So if they need to be doodling, if they need to be kind of like looking away, that just because they're not making eye contact doesn't necessarily mean they're not like acutely listening. Now it might be that they're ignoring you. It could be the opposite. But finding the tools to help the player and the DM and everyone at the table to be their most present self is tough. And you can only find them through repetitive play, learning these. Like I bite my nails a lot, so often for recording romancing, every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I'm profusely bleeding out of one of my hands. I just better hide this from everyone so it doesn't become distracting. And I'll just sort of sit like this for a little bit with my hands tucked under my like armpits as it stops. And I don't know why I bite my nails. Again, someone in chat will be like, oh, I know why, it's those 4 letters again. And I'm like, yeah, right, okay. So it's all to say that session zeros are great for setting expectations, but as time goes on and kind of quirks and habits and behavioral styles become apparent, it's also totally cool to be like, do you need something? Do you need like a break? Do you need like something to fiddle with? Or is there something we can do collectively to make this more fun? Or like, have we learned that 2 hours and 15 minutes is about our attention span limit? I mean, in theory, 40 minutes is the the classically academic, I think, scientific. Everyone can pay attention for about 40 minutes, and then you need like a 10 to 15 minute just like moment. And and the DM can kind of move around the room like that. We tend to be a bit more focused. I think it's just in a DM's nature to have a bit more kind of stamina for attention, because they're just like they're in control of the scene or whatever. So, oh yeah, sorry. So you're keeping an eye on chat, and I'm sure there's plenty of like wonderful things that have come up.
There is a couple of bits and pieces. I want to get to maybe Seamaster's question first, and then I want to come back to some of the comments that were made. But Seamaster asked, what would be your top 2 rules for a home game and 2 for a production game?
I can tell you the 2 rules we had for Homebrew as the production game, which was rule 0 was we're all here to have fun, and rule 1 was there's an audience. And and life happens. So like, it's you plan a stream, and we were every 2 weeks on a Tuesday, and there'd be times where someone couldn't make it, that whether they were sick or whether something else came up. Just being open in that communication was always really helpful. But then, and like, I probably wasn't, like, I'm not saying 10 out of 10 all the times. I was just like, oh yeah, that's cool, man. But I did always try to make it as clear as possible that health comes first. Like, this is a game we're doing for production. You're better off missing a stream if you're not like feeling the best or like at your best self, unless you feel like the stream will help you, like if it will be like a nice escape from whatever you're dealing with. Because energy, I think, is a bit more important on a production, like all coming in with like ready to create, ready to contribute, ready to make something. And you can feel like energy is one of those strange things, and not in that kind of like crystal astrology. As we all know, I'm an expert astrologist. But in an astrology way, just knowing someone's just not really present can make a huge difference. Declan's very good at this. There was one time I tried to get away with being very sick, and Declan was like, "Ben, you're peaky. Go home." I was like, "All right, yeah. You caught me. I'm not present." Yeah. Which was quite the adventure. But then home games, like, I'm happy for people to kind of come and go from the table. I would say if you are going to come and go, don't slow down. Like, accept that you might miss some stuff, and don't slow down the game by being like, "So hang on, what are we doing?" Just roll with it or whatever. And then 2, for both home and production, if possible, have a backup move you do every turn in combat. It doesn't have to be an optimized move. It doesn't have to be whatever. The battlefield will change if you're like, okay, I'm planning to do this, this, and this. So for example, for a warlock, if you can't think of something, just Eldritch Blast. It's going to have an impact. It's going to change the game. It's all good. If you're a barbarian, if you can't think of something, just attack them. Just rage and attack them. Have just go-to spells. People think it's a like not a creative thing, or it's not like a very imaginative thing, but we're creatures of habit. If I was a wizard with like 50 different spells, it's guaranteed I'm coming back to those top 5 over and over again. The rest are just sort of there. But like, I'll do the same thing. I do it in my job, like as a copywriter. I'm like, I'll have certain tools and tips I'll come back to. They're just like my strongest tools in the toolkit. So it's not unrealistic to do it in a game.
But see, they keep you going like that. That's the thing of it. Like it's the reason we call it the all reliable. Like if it works. Now, I mean, there's doing something to death. It's like if every turn is the same thing. Okay, let's stop and figure that out. But I think I do think again, Ben, that's something that I would be a big sort of advocate for. Of these are, and for me, these are the 3 things that I will do. Because I know my character, and that's what they're going to do, and I have that, and I can work it in a way we kind of go with it. For me, again, I mentioned the dice rolling one. And again, I have that in home games. It makes sense to have it in a production game. Outside of that, then I have. And Dillon and Dragons mentioned mic etiquette, massively important. Being aware that there is a microphone there, and that yes, it's going to record you, but it's not going to do the heavy lifting, and you need to project, and you need to be aware of it. You can't shout into it, and all those bits and pieces. And we will mic check each other around the table. Like, it is that thing of like, oh hey, can you just get a little bit closer or whatever. So everyone's kind of receptive of that and understands that you're not getting given out to it. You're just, because if I sit back into the chair and I relax for a second or two and I stay like that for the rest of the session, Mike's not going to get everything, or Mike's not going to get me as clear as it should. I have a kind of a big one I use more so for home games. Would be look, it's there for production games as well, but I think we'd have to have more of a conversation around it. But I use the open door policy around my games as well. Of I can come and go, and I can kind of dip in and out of the actual. You can come and go to this game as much as you need. The story will continue, and we can talk about how that's going to work for your character. Is it that you're gone for a week, you're gone for a month, you're gone for a little bit? Is your character leaving? Are we putting them in like TTRPG purgatory where they're there but they're not actually there? Or like Azul44 has said, can someone else run that character for you and not make big character decisions? but if you're the healer or you're the tank or you're the whatever,
Mm.
can they use those go-to moves to help combat so that we're not having to do a massive restructuring? So that open door policy is a big one, and it is there for production, but like I said, that would require maybe a different kind of conversation, because there's a narrative there and there's a story that's been created for an audience. So we need to talk about what happens if a character dips. And we have had, the last two, the first 2 seasons of Romancing the Dungeon, we've had 2 players they've had to step back from the table for various reasons. So it happens. So being able to kind of work with that and know that these things can happen. My last one is it's kind of one of the cardinal rules of improv, the yes and or no but. And it's that thing of you're building on to something. You're not just going, no. That something's happening and you're rolling with it rather than kind of immediate shutdown. I love when given something, the prompt, the hook, whatever it might be, the players go with it and it goes in a completely different direction, because that rule works for the DM as well. It's the players have just done that. They've done that one thing you didn't think they would do. So now it's yes and let's go with it.
Yes.
So those are kind of big ones for me.
That ties into Dillon and Dragon's rule 2 for production games as opposed to home games. Do what is best for the story in the show. I actually think that's a great rule. Home games, just do what's best for the story. Like, failure is more exciting in game than always winning or always succeeding. Like, I don't. It's a hard instinct to kind of quell. And I find I've had better games when I do quell this, which is like, I'm not going to do the most optimized thing. I'm going to do the thing that puts me in the most danger and hope the dice get me out of it. And if that pays off, incredible. If it doesn't, like, we need peaks and troughs. We need like highs and lows. That's like, it's a reason we play with dice. They add that probability. Just going to dip into the question here from Seamaster D, wondering, what is a behavior that isn't very extreme, but would have you kicked from your table, or have you had to kick someone from a table, and how did you handle it? I've never had to do this, but it is something that would push me to do it. If there's one person at the table that has sort of main character spotlight syndrome, and especially if it's we're actually going to explore the Wood Elves story for a while, and they're, rekindling their relationship with their parents, and then this character keeps coming in, it's like, we should do this. It's like, just give them a chance to work through this, and you don't backseat player them. And I would do it, I would even halt the session for it, but I would try to do it in the most subtle way, which is like, oh, hey guys, do you mind if we just take a little break? I'm getting a little bit peckish and I wouldn't mind just maybe 15-20 minutes. Let's just kind of all shake it out or whatever. And in that time, I'd go over to the player, because that type of personality doesn't like being called out in front of people. So I'm to be playing to their sort of needs and go, hey, like, I appreciate you're trying to help, but would you mind pulling back a little bit? Just let this character and this player have their moment. And like, we'll get back into it. And it's just important. We did it. Everyone did it for you last time. So let's, keep it fair and equal. And thankfully I've never had to do it. But it is a common thing that happens in tables. And it's not coming from a bad place. It's not that extreme. I get why people are excited. They want in. But it is hard to curtail.
Again, like Ben, I've never had to kick somebody from a table or a group. I have had to address things with a group and stuff like that. And that said, without getting too into it, D8 Dungeon Drive has a 0 tolerance policy towards any form of bullying or harassment, and that's not just something we put on as a tagline of, oh, we'll just add that in there, and look, sure, we're just adding it in. We have had to ask a potential player to leave a table because of language they were using, and again, it was this thing of, oh, I was just joking. It's like, yeah, that's fine, but not here and not at this table and not at this space. And you can go and find a space. And it was just handled. It was there was no dramatics with it. It was just quietly and very efficiently kind of put, not the time, not the space, ever. So thank you for applying. Goodbye. And that was it.
Yeah.
I think it's easier, and again, going back to those rules, it is easier to talk about these things. Well, it's easier said than done, I know, but you're better off addressing them before writing a 44 rule list and hammering it to the front door of the player's house, to be like, this is the case, and addressing things are kind of crucial to it. And it's so important that especially look, if it's a home game where everybody knows each other, or there's relationships outside the table, that look, what happens at the table, what happens at the session is just the session, and our characters getting into a fight doesn't mean that we're in a fight now. So I think having to kick someone is never easy. And that can happen for many, many different reasons. And I think if it's addressed, we've talked about it, whether it's main character syndrome or they're breaching a kind of a rule around dice, or they're constantly late, or whatever it might be. Well, you don't know why they're constantly late. Like, have you had that conversation? Have you talked about it? Can you put the session out 15 minutes? Instead of starting at that time, can you push it out 15 minutes, and then everyone that gets early can have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or water or whatever it might be. So again, it's no secret. Like it's not in a week. Like, I think I've said it every episode. You need to communicate. And I checking in with your players before, during, and after is so, and again, that takes time, but it doesn't have to be a massive, okay guys, so we've just played for 5 hours, I just need everyone to stay back for another 45 minutes, so we all now check in and everybody gets something off their chest. It's it's a message to the WhatsApp group or the Discord group, and being like, hey guys, great session, thanks so much for fun, just letting you know, if anybody wants to talk about anything, I'm here, shoot me a message, drop it in the chat, and we can go from there. That's it.
It's also I'm thinking in a friend group, like in a space where it's just like, oh, we kind of just ended up playing TTRPGs. Like, it wasn't like we're dedicated, we're committed, let's go sit down and do this. We're just like, and there's mixed interest and all that kind of stuff. It can be easier, I think, to just be like, hey, do we all have a problem with Jeremy? Yeah, we all have a problem. Okay, like, just next time I'm just not going to invite Jeremy. And then it's like, oh, that's a simple solution. Great, let's not invite Jeremy. Jeremy will eventually find out and be more hurt. And that's a friend of yours who you're like kind of excluding. And it's like, maybe don't just ghost them and like, oh yeah, just this time we were doing it in Oliver's house. And then like, it just so happened like Margaret was around, so she came and joined, and like trying to like lie your way out of, we just had a problem with how you were at the table. And if you just went and talked to them, they might blow up. They might be like, and then you go, oh, right, I was right. But you've done the right thing. You've opened to communication. You've gone with a reasonable sort of like, is there anything we can do to help? And in the annals of histories of your gaming group, it won't be, yeah, all those arseholes just left me out and never explained why. Which is just not, probably something you wouldn't want to happen to you. And nice to give other people that sort of respect and opportunity to change if possible.
It's never, these conversations are never easy, but they are important. Like, I think that's the key thing here. And that thing of, hey, look, this is happening, let's talk about it. And like, you can't say no one's gonna get upset, no one's gonna get hurt. No, it's never a nice thing to be told, hey, you're railroading, hey, you're doing X, Y, and Z, hey, you're like, oh, okay, sorry, I guess. But again, we're here to have fun, and we just want to make sure that everybody around the table is having fun, player and DM. That's the crucial. I think that's so that should be kind of like the first thing in every rule book, in every system, in every one shot, that everybody's here to play a game. Everyone's here to have fun. Otherwise, what's the point?
One of the things Zool has mentioned in chat is that one of their DMs has a 30-minute pre-game chat time, so they can start playing on time. So that kind of like ease into, if we start playing at 8, so I'll come over around 7:30. And a good thing for DMs, if you have that sort of, we'll start playing whenever, sometimes, and this, this used to happen to me when I was a lot younger. It's like, come over and let's play a TTRPG. Let's all come over 7:30. We'll play at 8. 8 comes around, people are still chatting. 8:30, people are still chatting. 9 o'clock, people are still chatting. Now there's not enough time for a game. We'll just play a board game. Okay. And what was missing was that DM's ability to sort of like, and I won't do this in case like the mic spikes, but like clap their hands and be like, game on, or like turn off the lights, turn the lights back on and be like, right, we're playing. And to tie it back to music, I think starting, like, if you have the same track that starts your game every week, just like Pavloving it, for lack of a better term, that music comes on and people start going, oh, habitually they're like, yeah, let's play. It's the teachers are great at this because they have that sort of, you're all talking the class is beginning. And that like hands across, or that kind of everyone settles. And to bring it back to the 44 rules, the teachers probably do this as well. Maybe scaffold your rules. Start with 4 rules. See how they get on. You can have 44 as your full list. Just introduce one at a time and see if they can stick to them. You'll get your 44 rules, I guarantee it. But it might just take 44 sessions, and we're going to try this time. Let's try in advance. This time, let's try no crosstalk. It's a lot easier to focus on one thing you're being asked to like do different than everything you're doing is wrong. Go fuck you. If you don't like it, get the fuck out. Like you're like, well, no, I don't have a chance.
If your table wants to sit down and have 44 rules and you want to print those out and everybody has them, do that. Just to make sure everybody at the table knows that's the way we're going to run the game. That's the most important rule, that everybody is on the same page and that it's not a sort of a split thing here. It's funny, Ben, that you brought up the teacher thing, and like every session that we play for Romancing the Dungeon starts the exact same way. It starts with me literally saying, devoted desire to dream here dirty, dapper dates for dejected daters. And then we go into the formula of, here's Roz's little shtick, here's her funny little joke, here's the question, and we're playing. And there's no, and like we like, because we're all over the country, well, actually one of us is on the other side of the country and everybody else is on this side of the country, but it is a thing of one person comes down and then everybody comes over, and we'll say, it's always that thing of like, okay, we know that one of us is going to be late habitually, always going to be late. So I'll tell everybody else, guys, I'm going to say 10. We know it's going to be 11. But if you're there at 10, I will have coffee and pastries or breakfast, and we can sit down, and it gives us a chance to chat about your character and what you want to do. Or we can just talk about the weather, or we can talk about whatever. But we do that, and then the person rocks over around 10:30, 11:15 with a text saying, hey, running late, whatever it might be. And we're like, yep, don't worry, we know. And and actually they've gotten way better. Like sometimes they're the first person there.
Yeah, it's shocking.
it's
like, oh no, I'm not ready. Oh god, I haven't even talked about the weather yet.
But again, that's sort of bringing everybody into the space and being like, okay, so remember all those kind of conversations we've had about like crosstalk, or using your phone, or using a device at the table, or rolling dice at the table. I'm not going to mention those again. I'm not going to say those again, because we've talked about them and we're now playing the game, and the rules are part of the game. So let's go on with it. And if things crop up, it's a conversation that we have to have. Ben, you and I could probably sit here and talk about this.
Yes, yeah, we've done the classic being on a roll about something.
Yeah.
And we have one more thing to cover on tonight's show before we bid you a wonderful good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Which I think is something we might start doing more regularly. You're probably getting it, that we're still finding our feet and finding what works and what doesn't work. We're not even double digits on this thing. So if you do have any feedback, please do always let us know. If you liked something, if you didn't like something, all of it's very valuable. But we want to try and shows with leaving the people watching some of the time with like a tool you can take into your next game. That's probably the best way to put it. Something you can implement straight away, and start using as a player. In this case, as a GM. And you might already know about it, and maybe hearing us talk about it will trigger some more inspiration, or give you a chance to like clock off and let information stew and like plan out your next session.
I said to Ben, I was like, I've a really cool thing that I want to show everybody. I want to show everybody something this really, and like again, it might be the thing people are like, there's way better stuff out there, and if there is way better stuff out there, tell me. Like this is something that I found a little while ago, and I love using it. I haven't it's not. I'm not the most creative when it comes to this sort of stuff. So it really helped me when it comes to building, and it's called the D&D 5e stat block generator. And we're just going to go that way for it. You can see it. This is it. I will drop a link, or we'll have a link in chat in a little bit if anybody wants to look at it there. But it is this really, really useful website that you can create stat blocks for NPCs, monsters, the BBEG, whatever it might be. And one of the coolest things about it is it comes with presets. So if you want the team to fight, I don't know, there's a dragon turtle here. We can click the all use preset, and this gets brought up for us. So like, okay, cool. We've now got a dragon turtle. We can see its AC, its hit points. We got all its stats, its amphibious, its actions, so on and so forth. They're like, great. Okay, I've got those things. This is going to be, this is kind of a good, this is the thing that we have. Great. Except it gets better. You can then go down and tweak these because maybe in your world dragon turtles don't have this much HP for what maybe they have more. Maybe this is an ancient dragon turtle. You can change the name of it, you can change its size, its type, you can add tags and alignment to it, you can customize its hit dice, its armor type. Does it have a bonus? You can change its movement speeds, you can add to its stats. You get to now customize your monsters. And one of my favorite things about this, I absolutely love, you know, when you're like, you're in the tavern and the brawl breaks out. It's the start of the adventure, and you know, they were chatting to, and in comes some shady, but then everybody, all the NPCs kind of get roped into it. Well, generally speaking, we don't have those stats to hand, so why not rack up a couple of these? We have a load of NPC sheets that we can now create very, very quickly. And it gets further. You can add abilities, you can change their actions, you can create legendary creatures. I've used this quite a bit over the last kind of 2 years with both Romancing the Dungeon and in Beyond Horizon's Edge, Rise of the Forsaken, Saving Grace. I love making, I love taking these sort of pre-made creatures and then going, okay, that's not what I actually need. I need something else. I need a variation on this. Maybe I want to change the spells that it can cast. Maybe I want to, I've got a rival party, and there are presets for rangers and druids, but they're not my ranger, they're not my druid. I want to go in here and I want to make something. And I don't know if any of my my stuff is up here. Sometimes you'll often see it kind of like it sets in because you can.
Right. So well, let's save it down if you've already worked on it.
Yes, so you can save it as a stat block itself. You save it then as like, and I think the file is called .monster. So it'll be dragon turtle .monster. And if you're not finished, you can then upload that back, and it gets a great great kind of reuse. Like if you're only halfway finished it and you need to turn it off or whatever, you can download it, upload it, and continue editing. You can then even, when you're finished, download it as this image. You can get a full PNG JPEG file of this and pull it down like that, and it makes it great.
Oh, so there's an echo potentially because you're sharing your screen?
Oh.
Maybe when I'm echoing. Oh, shut up.
Possibly. I don't. Oh, it's gone now.
It might be. I leant forward out of pure interest to look at this closer, and it might be my headphones moving closer to this mic and then just picking you up. So that's why I also moved backwards.
It's fine. Thank you again. Sorry. We've. I really recommend this. I'll put the link in chat again. We can try and share it. Really, really useful. Especially and even if you don't want to go making them. Like for planning a session, and like one of the things that I would plan is I get my monster stats, I get them ready, and if I don't have the book at hand and I'm out at an event, we've got a load of these that I can now just pull down and they're ready to go, and that's all I need. So really, really useful resource, and really useful tool that you can use at any kind of level. And with the one thing I will say is I do again it's a Declan thing, not necessarily an every DM thing or this website's issue. There's a whole thing around the CR, the challenge rating, and getting the monster right. Wing it. That's my home rule. Wing it and see what happens.
I have never seen CR ratings work the way they're meant to. It's like, this should be okay for a level 4 party of 4 people, and they're like, it kills them, or it's like, well, might as well be nothing. And I just don't get it as it, like, yeah, in general, like if it's a huge disparity between CR 20 and it's a level 1 party, sure, but like when they try to say it's balanced, you can never trust it.
It's gone 9 o'clock. We've been rolling about music, and well, to be fair, we've been rolling quite a bit more about I think manners and table etiquette, which has been great. And it's been great to see so many people kind of share their experiences and kind of how their tables work, because there's an awful lot to take from these discussions in that sense of seeing what works at other tables and then trying it out at yours, and always with notice, never just springing it on the party, never just springing it on the table, just to kind of preface that. But I've shared that, and that's been shared again into the chat, so you can take a look at it there. I'm gonna get us ready for the raid. If you want to
get us ready with some news.
Yes.
Let me go over to my news stories. Let's see what we have here. Which ones have I not done? I need to write a few more of these. Okay. All right. I'm good to go. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching tonight. One last little news story from the studio here, asked by the network to put this one in. In local business news, the realm of Barovia has lifted its ban on stag parties, bachelor parties, and midlife crisis getaways. As part of a new policy with the local newspapers referring to as a misguided attempt by Strad to appeal to mad lads and rad dads feeling bad sad about their new fads. Well, I know where I'll be going this weekend. That's all from us in the studio this week. We'll be back on a roll in 2 weeks. Same Ben time, same deck channel. And then this is the bit where we go raid and everyone gets ready. And but like, imagine there's a curtain and we're shuffling papers and stuff, and lights go down.
I'm going to the credits, but I'll go to the credits. Don't worry, I'll go to the credits.